So today we're going to be turning this 9 3/4 inch piece of 1018 steel into a quick one-piece prototype job that I got in this week. And I just figured I'd show the tool magazine on this Palatech machine we're about to use. Most of these tools are set up for aluminum, but this is going to be running steel. So because this is only a one-piece job, I didn't really want to go too crazy with the fixturing or work holding on this, so I just bolted some 6-inch vice jaws into my Kurt vise that I already had hanging on one of the pallets on my Palatech machine. Here we are just probing the X, Y, and Z in just to pick up my work coordinate system. I pretty much use my probe all the time for doing that. Starting off here with a carbide 4mm drill, just popping the corners out of where I'm going to bolt in the grippers. And then we call up a 1/2 inch end mill, and we're going to cut that 9 3/4 inch radius into the jaws to match the part. Now this material actually measures 9" 9/10, which is what I modeled the CAD at, just because I want it to be as good of a fit as I can on the actual jaws. So here's the 1/8 inch end mill, just nibbling away some pockets here. And in these pockets, I'm going to put some Mighty Bite grippers right here. I decided to put these in the jaws just so there was no chance that the part was going to get ripped out. And once it's done, I send it over to the load station and grab my material. I'm going to put it in the vice jaws like here, as you see. Just 2 grippers on the bottom jaw, 2 on the top jaw. Ignore those extra pockets. I accidentally messed up where those were supposed to be located. But no harm, no foul in this case. So again, call the probe up, get my 0, and up comes the 2.5 inch Dormer high feed mill, just to rough off the top of this material. This material came in way thicker than it had to be, so it needs quite a bit removed. Running this at 40 thou depth of cut, 1.7 inch step over, and 40 thou per tooth. This is actually quite a bit lighter than I wanted to run this cutter originally, but if you look at the spindle load, it's up really high right now, and I don't really want to stall the machine out. 140% on this for this cut. It's pretty much all I felt comfortable doing. This cutter could very easily go another at least 10 thou on the depth of cut. Then we're taking the same high feed mill and roughing the outside profile of the part just to net shape it out so the end mill didn't have to do so much work. And just a quick little glimpse what the chips look like coming off this high feed mill. Pretty good shape and color on these, I would say. So up next is just a standard 1/2 inch 5 flute end mill, doing some rest machining around the outside just to clean up the radiuses that the big feed mill left. Then a little finish pass around the outside just to clean it up and make it look nice and pretty. Then we take that same end mill and we're going to rough out this pocket on the back of the part right here. I'm pretty much just doing this before because when I face it off, I don't want to be cutting material that's going to end up not being there when I rough this pocket out. And as you see here, it's pretty big on the back of this part. So because this is only one piece and I didn't really feel like loading up another face mill, I'm just going to clean the face up with that same 1/2 inch end mill that I used to rough the pocket. And the 5 flute end mill in the chuck, and what the part looks like after the first stop from the end mill running. Up next, this is a 7/16 carbide Kennametal Go drill that's just drilling some 7/16 holes in the back. Followed by a 16mm Mitsubishi through coolant drill that's just pre-drilling out the center hole on this part and pre-drilling out all the larger bores on this part. This is just a 1/2 inch high-speed steel drill that I already had set up. I need to drill these holes all the way through the stock because the way I'm going to mount it on my Op 2 fixture, I needed room for the wrench to go through these holes. So we come back up with the 1/2 inch end mill again, just helixing in here where that pre-drilled hole was and roughing out this large center bore on the part. followed by the counter bore on the top of that bore we just milled in the pocket. I know it's not normal practice to rough and finish everything with the same tool, but like I said before, because this is only one part and nothing's really tight tolerance on this, I just decided to do most of the things with the same tool, finishing this pocket on the top with the same end mill that I roughed and finished the other features with. We finish up that counter bore on the wall and the floor just to make it look nice. Then we come in here and finish that through bore, doing first one finish pass followed by a spring pass just to get rid of the tool deflection. We come over with the same tool and we bore out these counter bores on these 866 holes on the face of the part, followed by boring out the 866 holes without counter bores on them. These are the holes I'm going to use to locate on Op 2. So as you see here, it's just a basic helical boring cycle with that same 1/2 inch 5 flute end mill. Up here is a 281 carbide through coolant drill. Gotta love through coolant. It's the best thing ever invented on CNC machines in my opinion. And then up is a high-speed steel 332 drill, just drilling a little drain hole in the back. And no part is ever complete without some nice edge brake chamfers. Chamfer those holes that are going to get tapped 5/16 18, and then we run around everything we can with this 3/8 mill drill here. Just adding little 15 thou edge breaks on all the sharp edges, just to make it look nice. In my opinion, I always prefer to have the machine do the deburring than me have to do it when it gets out of the machine. Just doesn't look as good or as consistent. Most of the features on here don't have a specific edge break called out, but some of the bores do have a 25 thou chamfer size, which means I have to do them separately as I'm showing here. And up last but not least is form tapping the 5/16 18 holes. Here I just put Molly D in all the threaded holes on this. Just going to put some on the tap here before it runs in the first place, but this Molly D works wonders on any material for form tapping or cut tapping. It works when nothing else will. And here's the finished part off Op 1. As you see, there's the through holes that I'm going to use for my wrenches, and all the other features, basically just a bunch of holes and a couple pockets on the part. And I just wanted to show, these are the gripper marks from the grippers that I put in the jaws. You can see how deep they actually bit into the outside of the material, and that's why I'm not really worried about taking a heavy cut like this, holding the part up in jaws up above the vise. So for my Op 2 fixture, I actually had this fixture I made for a different part we never ended up using, and the bore sizes on this part are the same as those expanding arbors. So I'm going to take this fixture that I use all the time for my manifolds, which have adjustable clamps on them with serrations on the top of the jaws right there, and I'm just going to put a sacrificial manifold plate in this fixture, and I'm going to put the pattern for these expanding arbors in that. So here I am just milling the area flat where the part's going to end up sitting. And milling the counter bores for the recesses for the expanding arbors. I have to actually recess these into the plate because the part isn't thick enough to have them up all the way. And the finished fixture, the counter bores, 3 tapped holes, and a tapped hole in the center. So I actually made a slight error with this when I was running it. When I programmed it, I thought, oh yeah, I'm just going to make these holes 1032, like in my head I thought they were. But if you look, this 832 screw that actually goes in the parts just flops in the threads. So I get to hand ream out all these expanding arbor holes for clearance for a 1032 screw. And now they're all installed. Instead of the flathead screws, they have button heads, but it works all the same. And just a quick look why I drilled those holes, the clearance for the expanding arbors, and the part mounted on the Op 2 fixture. So for Op 2, I'm using the same 2.5 inch high feed mill, but on this Op I lightened the cut up because I was worried about it pulling off the arbors or the machine actually pulling the fixture out of these jaws, because they're not actually bolted to anything, it's just clamped in those rails right there. Lucky for me, it seems like I went light enough that I didn't actually have a problem with that or have a problem with the part pulling off anything. It sounded pretty good for the amount of rigidity that was actually on this part when it was machining. I think I only lightened the cut up by maybe 10 thou on the depth. can see here, the spindle load's slightly lower than it was on the other operation, just basically keeping the part from wanting to move in the fixture since it's only one piece. My 2.5-inch high feed mill, and this is the part after it's run with all the roughing done. So back up comes that 16mm carbide drill, just drilling out this one bore on the other side of the part. And then my favorite little roughing tool from my first video, that 1-inch Dormer high feed mill right here. It's just going to rough this pocket down one pass at a time. It's about 2 inches deep. It's taking a 39 thou depth of cut, ramping down at 0.8 degrees, which is basically that pitch, so it doesn't overload the inserts, just roughing this pocket. Then up comes another 5-flute end mill, this time with a 2-inch length of cut in that same hydraulic holder. That's just going to rough off all these extra clearances on top of these through holes right here. Along with some reliefs on the bottom of the part that also follow those through holes. Then that same end mill is going to come in and start finishing the rest of the stuff. As you can see by the burr being kicked up, this end mill's not in the best condition, but I just wanted to get the stuff done. This says not critical features, so I didn't need a sharp end mill for any of this. We're going to take that same end mill and rough out this bore on the front of the part. Followed by a finish pass on that 2-inch deep pocket on the front of the part. Then again, just like the other side, I'm going to finish the face with that 1/2-inch end mill. Now that end mill's going to come around and start finishing all the lower features on the part. First it's going to run around the bottom here, finishing both the boss on the bottom wall and floor. Then we step up, finish this upper boss along with the floor with the same tool, doing a finish pass right here just to make sure that the finish is good. Up next is one of my other favorite tools in the shop. This is a 4-inch diameter by 625 wide Kennametal KSSM slot milling cutter. Unfortunately, this tool is discontinued, but I love this thing for putting slots in the outside of steel. And back up with the 281 solid carbide drill just to pop the rest of the 5/16 holes in the front. Followed by a 1/4-inch end mill, which is just milling some counter bores on the top of the threads. And then after those are milled, we come in with the same mill drill from Op 1. Just add some 15 thou edge breaks on the top of those counter bores. We chamfer that top pocket along with the rest of the stuff on the top. And everything again gets a 15 thou edge break just so there's no sharp corners. And this is a 1/4-inch mill drill I'm using because in order to get to a 5/16 thread, my 3/8 mill drill wouldn't fit in the counter bore. And to chamfer everything else, I have my 3/8 5-flute helical flute 90-degree chamfer mill that I just stuck out a little further just to run around it, chamfer the outside, chamfer all the features I couldn't get to with the mill drill. I also go through here and chamfer the through holes so that everything has an edge break on it that I can possibly get to. And using the 2D chamfer feature in Fusion just so I can avoid hitting the walls as I chamfer all the lower steps on this part. And the same thing as on Op 1, put the Molly D in the holes and tapping the 5/16 18 form tap threads. And after roughly an hour and 10 minutes of cycle time or so, this is the finished part that I get off the Op 2 fixture. You can see the 6 expanding arbors there, didn't have any issue with it moving, and I think all the finishes came out relatively good for this part for just one try. And after a long Saturday at work, the job is done. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.